exercise thing. And I'm just like, how is this my problem? I
bet that CS is so stoked.
Oh my God. He kind of is, but kind of isn't. Like
the alternative is get underway on a sub or go do that.
So that
to go be a rider on a surface ship to just do port calls.
Right.
Hell yeah.
There is that, but also so the guy that ended up getting pulled too was like, he was going to be the flag guy. So he wasn't even supposed to be one of those GN support guys. So it's like, but we didn't have another, so the incoming GN guy who just had a kid and all that, like he hasn't even checked in yet. So we couldn't put him on the list because he doesn't even work here yet. And then the other guy's getting out of the Navy in 5 minutes. So he was a hard no. And he did it last year because this is the second time this has happened to us. And so then it was like, he was the only choice. And so he's not hyped about it in general, but yeah, I mean, when faced with it's either that or going out on a submarine, he's probably hyped, but he doesn't want to do either because he's on shore duty and he wasn't even supposed to be a guy that was at risk of deploying. No. So it's just like, that's where we're at. And I'm in this scenario where I'm having to try to explain to these boats, like how do I get a mandate that I have to cough up a body to support a surface ship? And it's not even a real deployment. Like it's not even a thing that should have the level of priority that it does. And we're getting told I'm like, why? Like I'm already fighting a losing battle trying to man these gaps. And then you're going to take someone away from me to do nothing, to do like something that doesn't even benefit the submarine force in any way, shape or form. I just want to put my head through the wall.
I don't.
Yeah, it's and we fought it too. And it was just like, no, you're going to provide somebody. And then we got voluntold.
I meant to show you. So I sent you the tiny picture, but I just sent you a much bigger, better version.
Okay. Oh,
that's my new favorite picture.
That's amazing because you can see the coin in his hand too.
You could see the whole thing clear as day.
How did that happen? Was that was at the Naval Academy?
No, the Coast Guard Academy.
Oh, okay. How did he end up on stage in his whites in a position to coin the president?
His cousin graduated from the Coast Guard Academy. So he was the first salute / presenter of his diploma or degree or whatever, right? Okay. So, and like everybody has somebody, right? And so then after that was all set up, Biden apparently was going to be the guest speaker. So all Biden did with all those, you could see him kind of doing it with somebody else, is like somebody in the background hands Biden the cert. Biden hands it to the presenter, who turns around and gives it to the kid graduating, and then they walk off off the stage, and then and then off to the side of the stage afterwards is when they do their official first salute, put all that jazz on, blah blah blah. Mm-hmm. And then so he said that he showed up crazy early because you had to get down onto the field and sit in your own little seating for the presenters, right?
Yeah.
And they came by and talked to all the presenters, and they were like, hey, because the president's going to be giving you the cert type deal, like basically no touching. Like don't give him an elbow bump, no fist bumps, no none of that. Don't try to hug the guy. Just take the cert, say hello, whatever, and move on. And so everybody's like, oh man, what a bummer, right?
Yeah.
So he was telling me that he's sitting there, and 2 seats down from him was a retired McPog, McPog of the Coast Guard.
Yeah.
And so like 2 seats in front of him, basically, or to the side, but like in the order of people getting their degree is this guy. And so they, kind of look at each other because it's the same uniforms and all that stuff. So it was like, oh, hey, what's going on? Whatever. And because he's got a star on you don't see it on his dress whites, but still senior chief, right? So they're talking and the McPog was like, man, it's such a bummer that like, I wanted to coin this guy. He's like, I brought an extra coin and everything.
Yeah.
And so he said he sat there and he was like, I'm going to do it anyways.
The McPog or okay.
No.
Or Tony.
Yeah. Tony was like, I'm going to do it anyways. And so like the McPog's like, really?
Yeah.
And he was like, yeah, why not? You know, just kind of like laughing about it. What are you going to do?
Fire me? Like
basically like he just kind of laughed about it. Like, well, whatever. And like, we'll see. He was kind of like mostly just joking, but he's like, we'll play it by ear. Well, we'll see how it goes. So he was towards the beginning, but not like the first by any means. And so a bunch of people go up there and there's a lot of officers that are out in the crowd with them going to present and, a couple of non-military, but like mostly military and all that jazz. And so they're all just kind of sitting out there talking and they're watching everybody and everybody's just like, grab the cert, give them a quick head nod, move along.
Yeah.
And he said, so the McPog goes up to stage, like 2 people in front of him. So where he's standing, you can't really see what's going on, but apparently he coined him also.
Nice.
And so when he was coming down the stairs, Tony was going up the stairs and the McPog just looked over and gave him like a wink and a nod and was like, and goes, do it. And so he's like, all right. So he gets up there and just whips a coin out of his pocket.
Oh, that's awesome.
And like you can see, like holds it out to show him.
Yeah.
And in the video, you can see him like go to shake his hand. And then he like saw that in his hand and he kind of hesitated for a second, like to see what it was. And then was like, yeah, he grabs it, shakes his hand, drops it in his pocket and keeps on going.
Yeah. That's awesome. And nobody said anything to him. Like nobody was like, we told you not to do that.
Nope, nothing. And
that's
so
hilarious.
Like he said he got back down to the crowd and he was sitting there watching it. And like the McPog looked over and he's like, did you do it? And he's like, yeah. And they were like, hell yeah, both of us did. We were laughing about it. And he said there was like a lieutenant commander sitting between them. Yeah. There's a couple of 05s and 06s that were in the area around them.
Yeah.
And they were all looking around like, you guys coined the president? And it was like, yeah, I did. It was like, I can't believe you did that. And then they were all sitting there like, man, I'm kind of mad I didn't do that.
Yeah, that's so amazing. Like, what? I mean, because what are they going to do? Like, I don't, you know what I mean? Like, I know they said not to do it, blah, blah, blah. But like, what are you going to do? Like, I don't know. That's hilarious.
Well, I'm just dying laughing because like, so too, that picture that I sent you, I guess he's got like, that's a screenshot or something from it, but he's got the high quality photo from that.
Oh,
he's getting an 8x10 ordered so he can frame it.
I'm going to text him and have him send me that. Cause I'm going to make that like an episode thing. That's going to be like the next Goats After Dark, like image. It's like, yeah, this dude coined the president. No big deal. Like,
well, and so we were dying laughing at that. Right. And he's like, that he's got that. And so me and him always joke, right? He always tried to convince me to like, whenever we would go travel for something, he would always give me a hard time, like make sure I had an extra coin on me.
Yeah.
And if not, he'd bring an extra one for me just in case.
Yeah.
And then every time we go talk to some rando, he'd be like, dude, give that guy a coin, like palm him a coin. And I'd always looked at it as like, who am I though, to give this guy a coin? And he was just kind of like, oh, just that's how you get one back.
Yeah.
Like you give him a coin. And if they weren't planning on it, they'll feel slightly more obligated. And they'll be like, oh, I got to get this guy a coin back. And you can get one that way.
Yeah.
Or he's like, or you just kind of do it as like, yo, I don't know if you know who I am, but I'm kind of a big deal. Here's my coin. It's like, if you didn't know me before, now you do. You're welcome.
I've never been big on doing it because I guess like I came up in a time where it was more of like a good job thing. Like it was like chiefs would coin you. So it was like, or like chief to chief, it was more like a thank
just
you.
Trading.
Like, no, or that too. Yeah. But it was like, if I'm just going to unsolicited give somebody a coin, it was more like they took care of me in some way, or like went out of their way to like do something awesome. And so I just like, it was like, man, thank you. Like, or whoever. Yeah. I mean, like it was like a thank you for taking care of my sailor or taking care of me or whatever. And so like I guess that just kind of got burned into me, but like cause I've had a lot of Chiefs do that where they just give me a coin for no reason. And it always felt kind of like, why are you giving me a coin? Like, I don't like, I don't know. I just always thought about it that way. I'm not saying there's like a set of rules that people have to follow or anything. It's just, that's how I came up understanding it. And so like, that's kind of how I've practiced it is it's just like I'm for sure if any chief is like, hey, can we trade coins or like, okay, sure. Yeah. Like if you want a Chiefs coin from here, like, yeah, for sure. I'll trade whatever. Like I get that some people are into like collecting them or whatever. And I'll never tell a chief no, but it's more like if I'm just going to unsolicited like coin somebody, it's like a thank you thing for me. And the majority of those are just junior sailors. Like it's like it goes a long way. So,
and I get that too. Like I don't know when the last time I've asked for one. Usually if I'm going to get one from somebody, I just buy theirs.
Yeah.
Like if they have one that I want, like I'll just buy it. Which I get isn't the same and yada, whatever. But like, that's the way coins work today for most of the time, right? Yeah. Like that the only way it's not like your mindset of like the only way to get one is because you did like I don't know, you go to the Constitution, like when I went there and I went and bought a coin from their Chiefs mess, but it's like, I didn't get one because I was like a really awesome tour visitor, you know, it was just like, I wanted a coin and I'll help them out and support their mess and go buy a coin from them. But there are ones that were like given to me and like on my rack, like I know which ones they are. And, you know, I guess, I don't know that they mean more or anything, but there's something behind them. But it's just funny. Cause like, I don't know, but he had always given me a hard time about giving coins to people. Right. So when I was in California, the CNO came out there with the McPon on some random tour. It was when it was Richardson.
Yeah.
And they came out, did their little public speech thing and took some Q&A at the end. And then afterwards you can go up and talk to him. And so he'd always given me a hard time for not coining a couple people in the past. Cause it was just, I don't know, it just felt weird and forced.
Yeah.
And so I went up and I was like, I'm going to go coin the CNO. And he was like, that's what I'm talking about. And so like I worked my way up to the front and it was not because he's obviously a submariner. And so there was a couple of pilots that were there and the Air Wing CMC was a previous submariner. Mm-hmm. And so he was talking to all those guys and he was like, oh, let's get a fam photo. Let's get a picture with the fam. And like Richardson was saying that, and he's like dragging all the submariners in there. And I was back a few people, but I kind of like slipped in between and pushed my way up to the front to get up there. And so I'm standing there taking a picture with like my arm around the CNO. Yeah. And then afterwards he looked over and he's like, oh, awesome. Thanks for coming. Whatever, goes shake my hand. And I pitched him a coin and he's like, oh, cool. Thanks. And he like drops it in his pocket. And it sounds like Scrooge McDuck chucking a coin into his vault, right?
Yeah.
Just like his whole
got
pot, like
1,000 of them,
1,000 coins in his pocket. And so I'm standing there for a second, like that half awkward, I'm done shaking your hand. He puts it in his pocket and I'm still standing there looking at him. And I was waiting for him to pull one out.
Yeah. He probably was out.
I didn't see a single person get one though.
Oh, okay.
So like, I mean, maybe he had a few from like earlier small meetings type deal or something, right? Which is fine, right? But like, come on, man, you're the CNO. Dude, you know that everybody just wants coins from you.
Yeah, but you got to think that if he just made it rain coins on their coin budget would be absurd. That guy shakes so many hands that like,
I don't know.
I can tell you that like for the like flag staff I work on, it's like the Admiral. They
just as a pretty personal tight, though,
pretty tight. Well, but then he's spending his own money on it. So like
that dude, he is not hurting on a paycheck.
I'm aware, but again, like, dude, like the number of coins that guy would have to give out is like obscene.
Yeah, I'm sure he does give out a ton. It is what it is.
And they exercise really tight controls over like the official coins. So
Oh yeah. And I just laughed because like, so I'd pitched one to the CNO and I was giving Tony a hard time. And I'm like, well, good luck beating that. And then he comes out here and pitches it to the president. And
let's play a game. It's called I Win.
Top that? I'm going to have to coin Putin.
Yeah. Or like, yeah, I mean, I feel like if you coin, I'm trying to think of like who would be more gangster. If you coined like, I'm trying to think of, there's no like living submarine Medal of Honor winners that I'm aware of. I'm pretty sure they're all gone. And then like, I'm trying to think of like somebody that would be more legit, like Ed Byers or something. Like
Jimmy Carter himself.
Yeah, like that would be legit, dude. If you could coin Jimmy Carter, that'd be amazing. I mean, I feel like that might win. I feel like that one, it'd be a debate. But I feel like because he has a submarine named after him and he was a president, I win. Like,
he had fish.
He had fish. As a president. You lose. Yeah, but there you go. Like, there's the gauntlet is laid. You need to figure out a way to coin Jimmy Carter. That's what needs to happen.
I was just laughing at because I'm like, come on, man. But and then the guy in my office was giving me a hard time because he's like, dude, you guys are doing it wrong. You're supposed to get coins from those people. And I was like, hey, man, sometimes you just got to let people know who you are.
Yeah.
You know? Sometimes you just got to tell Biden, like, hey, I mean, you're doing a cool job and all, but I don't know if you know me. I'm kind of a big deal. Here's my coin.
Big deal. Here's my coin. Like, you're playing the game backwards. You're supposed to. Yeah, I can't. Yeah. I feel like the only way up from here would be Carter.
It's like a weird small, it's like a subcategory of the coin game though, right? Like instead of who's got the highest ranking one, or like
who can coin,
who got one, like, oh, I got one from my CO for something. It's like, well, who have you given coins to though? You know, like maybe it's just a mindset thing where you're looking at it from the point of view of that the person giving the coin is always like the more important or the higher ranking or the whatever, right? Like maybe, and you're always kind of in like this like sub role when you receive the coin. Maybe you should just turn the tables and you should take that dominant position and be like, hey, I don't know if you know who I am, but I'm kind of a big deal. Here's my coin.
Big deal. That's hilarious. It'd be even better if you actually said that when you coined them. Like, I mean, I don't know if you know this, but I'm kind of a big deal.
It's a pretty big power move to coin somebody, like to coin up. You know what I mean? Like if you were to go coin your CO, and give him one, like it's like a weird power dynamic there of like this.
My nephew's always, I don't know what it's from, but he's always going weird flex, but okay. Like,
yeah, no, it is. It's a super weird flex, but it's like, I don't know. I just, that was like this weird social experiment that I was thinking about, like the power, like imagine if you went down on, you're down there doing an inspection on a boat and like some second class came over and said like, hey, thanks for coming down. And
coins you a coin.
You'd be like, who the F is this
I would
dude?
die. I'm like, this is my new favorite coin. Yeah.
Yeah. Good for you, man. You're going places. You're all right.
That's fun.
Like, it's just a weird dynamic, but instead it's always the opposite where like you go down there and they're like, oh man, hopefully I can get a coin from this guy. And it's like, why?
Yeah. No, I want his coin.
You got to turn the tables. Like you got to be that second class that palms somebody higher than you a coin.
And it'd be even better if the second class had like a personalized coin with their name on it and stuff. And like
100%.
Oh, that'd be legendary.
100%. I wish that you didn't have to pay so much for that initial
the mold fee,
minting, the form or whatever they call it.
Yeah,
because I would totally order my own coins.
Yeah, I'm gonna
just for that moment.
Yeah, I'm gonna get podcast coins eventually. Like, but that same thing. Like, it's like that's why I haven't done it yet, because the initial order is gonna be like $1,000. It's like gross. I'm gonna go grab a drink.
And then that's why people never change them.
Yeah. Yeah. And like, there's been a couple of guys I know that, like, so his career path where it's like, another buddy of mine was at Lant and he was already a Master Chief, but had never been a Cobb. And he's just like, where do I go from here? And so he went and talked to the force and was like, look, if you're telling me I have to go be a Cobb, I'll figure it out. But I feel like it would make way more sense for me to just put a CMC package in, because he hadn't been like, basically like you, he hadn't been in rate on a submarine in like over a decade. Yeah. And so like, he was just like, to me, it just makes way more sense, and I'll serve the Navy better by just going and being a CMC next. Cause he's like, otherwise I'm probably just going to retire. And so he signed off on it, and the guy got selected the first time he applied. So it's kind of like Tony, where he went the same route. And I was just like, man, it'd be cool if there was like a path to do that where I didn't have to like be weird, like
there is, you just have to convince the Force Master Chief to let you go.
That's what I'm saying. Where I have to like subvert the normal like process. I have to like figure out a way around it and like do some weird backdoor stuff. It's like, I'm just not
like Tony.
Yeah. And I'm not that dude. Like I'm not as slick as Tony is. Like
Tony didn't do it like intentionally.
I know.
It was just like the circumstances of, hey, I happen to have a different force now because of where I'm stationed. So, and he's probably a dude who will be good at it, but same as you, same as me. Like, he's probably not going to be the guy that's going to kill it on like as a submarine Cobb, because it's just it's a very unique, very specific, like,
yeah, very.
It's just so different as far as what like it is and it's not, but like the expectations are just so different.
Yeah.
When you show up to go do that, right? Whereas like if you show up as a CMC, you're just expected to be the CMC. But like the Cobb on a boat, there's that weird expectation that, like you've said before, like you're the topside BSP expert, and you're the best dive on the boat for some reason, or at least pretty capable.
Yeah.
And then, like there's just weird stuff like that you expect people to have those experiences with, which doesn't necessarily make you a good CMC at all. It's just, I think by the fact that you don't have as many people, somebody's got to do those things. And so it just falls on you.
Yeah.
And which is a weird situation, unless you just happen to have like a really strong chief's quarters where you have people that are good at those things and you can just assign them to do it type deal.
Right.
Or your watch bill is flexible enough that you could support them doing it without screwing over somebody else. So yeah, I don't know. It is a weird thing, but, I was laughing about that. Like me and my other buddy that was, the three of us were in the division with Tony, or the two of us and Tony. Right. And so we were joking, like, I sent him that picture and was talking about where Tony's headed. And my buddy was like, dude, I want Tony to write a book called like, I can Navy and so can you. Like basically like how to do kind of what you want in the Navy, but still be successful.
Yeah.
Cause he didn't follow like any career ladder to the T. Like he did all the opposite of like what you're supposed to go do. Like he swam upstream the whole time, but he's still just killing it. And he keeps going,
That's hilarious.
Which is awesome. I love seeing stuff like that.
Yeah.
But I almost wish it was like that you could be more flexible like that in the Navy and still be as successful, where like he's the exception to the rule of being that successful while not following the standard Navy pipeline, basically.
Yeah.
And I don't know. It's just nice to see that it is possible, even if it is pretty rare.
Yeah. It's like, it's strange too. And like, I don't have an intimate understanding of his career progression, but like, it definitely seemed like a lot of the guys that were doing what he was doing, especially within projects, were having a really hard time promoting because it was a non-traditional career path, and they were all staying in that community generally, like just going back and forth and between like cadets. And so I was surprised to see him and like that other dude that put on CMC without being a cob. Like he was kind of the same, where it was like, I didn't think he would promote like that, but they did. And so it was kind of interesting to see. And some of it was kind of like he elected to go into like, in certain ways, he took advantage of opportunities to manipulate's probably the wrong word, to just like navigate the system in a certain way to position himself to promote, if that makes sense. Like, so like the other guy, not Tony. I don't know how Tony did it, but yeah, it's just like, it happens. So it's interesting to see when it does, because I like a lot of those guys had a really hard time promoting. And I'm sure a lot of it was, even though they were in a non-traditional career path, a lot of the regular reasons were the reasons they weren't promoting, because Tony was a guy that would go up in control and he was trying to qualify things. I'm pretty sure I was his over instruct a couple times, but like a lot of those guys weren't. They just didn't want to qualify chief of the watch and duty chief, even though they were on a submarine with the opportunity to do so. And so it's just like, there you go. Like I figured out one of the reasons why you're not promoting. And so it's just like, yeah, it was bizarre that like they thought they could just be bumps on a log. And by virtue of them doing some kind of special thing, like job wise, it was like, you still got to do the other stuff. Like and if you do, you're probably going to be given credit for the fact that, like, because I tell you, when I sat the board, like the non-traditional career path stuff didn't negatively affect people. It was the not doing all the other stuff on the enlisted career path that was killing people. It was just like, yeah, you can do alternative stuff, but it's like, and you'll like largely be given credit for, like, if you're doing a non-traditional sea duty, you'll be given credit for doing sea duty. And as long as you're still within that non-traditional career path doing, like, you're an LPO and you're leading sailors, or you're doing some kind of equivalent and you're leading sailors and you're doing the things and getting the qualifications and maybe like stepping outside of your career path and getting like some kind of collateral duty that has a documented impact. Just all the same crap that's on the ECP and that's in the precepts meeting letter. It's like, if you're still checking all those boxes, you're probably still going to promote.
Well, that's the same thing that like he said during his brief to the staff and the students for projects was like, the two common things you hear is like projects people, like somehow the two things you hear the most is projects people promote faster and projects kills your career. And he was like, both are true and not true. Yeah. So he was like trying to explain, he's like, you know, when you go to projects, like there's this whole screening process. You have to be successful to get in there, right? Outside of like the first accession guys going to the JC are probably have the least, that's like the biggest wild card, right? Because what you don't really have a lot to judge off of when they get in there. But every returnee that's there, every fleet returnee is there, has like been successful to some extent wherever they were before that. So like they're on a whole, all the returnees there are probably better than the fleet returnees on the whole at most any other command. Yeah. Just because of like, there's a screening process. Right. So when you're around a bunch of successful people who are the type who are like, I'm going to go do that extra qual, I'm going to go get this thing done. Like, you're more willing to, or you're more likely to do the same thing, or they're more willing to, or likely to drag you along, or whatever, however you want to look at it. He used the a rising tide lifts all ships kind of mentality, right? Which isn't wrong. So he was you're largely not competing more successful.
Yeah. You're largely not competing against the people on that submarine, even though you're competitively ranked against them in a peer group. It's like when you go to the board, you're competing against everyone else doing the same job on a different submarine or whatever, you know what I mean? Right. Like, or on shore duty. So you're not like, that's what gets lost in the sauce a lot, is like people are caught up in their competitive group on board the ship. And if they don't get the number one EP, oh my God. And it's like, I didn't get a lot of EPs in my career and somehow promoted pretty competitively the entire time. And it's because I'm competing against a group of people that also largely don't get EPs on submarines. And that's another conversation for another time. But like, even because even when I merited one, I didn't get one sometimes. But like, when you look at the landscape of the people you're competing against, what are they doing so what do you have to do to be competitive? Not necessarily like you're competing, because I made chief there early, and then I'm competing against these like guys that would be number one EPs on other submarines in the fleet. And it's like, I'm a brand new chief. I'm still figuring out how to wear my khakis. Like, so of course I'm not going to competitively rank high against all of those guys. But like at the end, I got like a number one MP on my way out. And I mean, you could have made a case that I could have gotten an EP, but like they weren't letting me qualify dive and stuff. So that was like, it was an easy way to knock me down, even though like I was trying to, and you just wouldn't let me. But it was like, you know, like I fell out about where I probably should have because of the people I was competing against, but also like I'm the number one MP, like a number two, like E7 chief on board that platform. And then people are looking at that like, oh, okay, like compared to everyone else. And I was doing all the other things, and the eval reps were ridiculous. And so it's like, yeah, when you're competing against that peer group, you're going to do well.
Well, you see that like with pretty much any office, right? Like usually if you see, you know, the more successful or highly ranked, or typically it's like with quals, right? Like if you have an office with a lot of qualified people for whatever, you know, qual is good, when you show up, you know, like here, if you go like you show up to an office and everybody around you is qualified MTS, you're probably going to get it pretty quick. Not because it's like given to you, but if everybody else has it and everybody else is doing well, like you have a little bit of that outsider syndrome. You're a little more willing to put in the work to be, you know, whatever the case. Right.
Yeah. And they're going to help you
like,
too.
Right. And you have more people that can help you. So like the same thing when you go there, right? If you're that type of person who will put in the effort, then that place is full of people who will put in that effort, which A, makes it more competitive, but B, like you're saying, like outside of that command really helps you.
Yeah, for sure.
So like, yeah, you might, make rank faster or whatever, but then the other side of it was like that it slows you down. And he was like, projects doesn't slow you down. Or he said, projects doesn't slow people down. People slow down at projects, I guess. But it was, his point was kind of like, if you're at a weird out of rate debt, it's like, well, look at your ECP. What do you have to qualify? If there's not like an equivalent to or whatever else, then like you still have to do those things.
Yeah.
And so when people don't, when they have that opportunity, then that looks bad. It's like, cool that you're really good at this other thing, but that doesn't matter. Like I'm not ranking you on how good you are at this random thing. I'm ranking you on how good of a, whatever your source rate is.
Right.
And if you're not, you don't have those wickets met and you had the ability to, then that looks bad on you.
Yeah. And
so
interestingly,
you could be really good there, but you're tanking outside of there.
Yeah. Interestingly, they added to the ECPs, all the submarine ECPs, there's like a little gouge on what certain, like the debt does on the, like, and what the equivalencies would be and stuff like that. And it was
not
like,
for all of them, but for some.
No, yeah, not for all of them. Mostly for the one that gets underway on that boat, but others as well. I'm sure. Like I don't know. I'm not as familiar.
A couple others.
I'm not as familiar with the other debts, but like, yeah, it like kind of sheds some light on what those quals mean and positions and stuff like that. But then also like, like generally, I feel like there's probably somebody that's going to know, like for that one debt. Like you have the opportunity to qualify all the things on an ECP that a normal submariner does. So if you're not doing it, it's like, dude, like it's just same thing for surface sailors. Like their question is when you see a sailor that's at an aviation command, it's like, did they get their aviation warfare pin? And I'm like, doesn't look like it. And they're like, well, they had the opportunity to, and they didn't. And that's bad, you know? And it's just like, oh, okay. Like, and I gotta like, sometimes people are intelligent enough where like there are commands where it like appears that they would have the opportunity, but like they'll have something in there stating like, no, we did not. Like there'll be like expeditionary commands where they're like on some kind of a staff. And so they didn't like up at a like headquarters or something. So they didn't have the opportunity to get their EXW pin. And so it's like, but they make sure that they state that, which is really smart. It's like, no, like I get that it may appear, but we did not have the opportunity to get it. Otherwise I would have got it. So that kind of stuff matters. At least at promotion boards, but yeah.
And he had a good point with that too. You know, it was kind of the same thing of like, yeah, if you have the opportunity and you don't do it, then that looks bad. But which is true of that's in any community, like you're saying. But it was more of like people will get sucked into what they do, and then they like, you know, when it's for testing purposes, like you just don't stay up with your own rate, and then your test scores start tanking because like you could be awesome at this other thing, but if you still have to pass your rating exam. And so if you can't do that, then that's your problem. Like you need to fix that. And that's where people will like, it's not, projects didn't do that. They didn't force you into being bad at your job.
Right.
You just have to put in that extra effort to stay good at your job. And like, yeah, it's extra work, but that's also why the whole thing is the whole process, the whole community is extra, which is why when you do good there, it looks really good.
Yeah.
Because it's like, oh, wow, they were able to do all of these things and more.
Yeah.
Just because they were even if it's the inconvenience factor.
Yeah.
It's
like just the pain you had to go through and still found a way to succeed.
Yeah, exactly.
There's a thing I've been thinking about weirdly where it's like, I feel like it might be a supply thing no, that's not true. Cause I've noticed a lot of A gainers and a couple other rates, but it's probably everybody. It's like you see sailors, like you'll see first classes and they're like the hard workers that are like the reliable go-to type of people that aren't making board, because they're the type of people that you're like, oh, he's got to have like a really great chance of making chief, or you're just like hopefully optimistic that, you know, like I really hope that guy makes chief this year, or that I really hope she makes chief this year. Mm-hmm. And then they don't, and you're like, what? And then you do the poking around because maybe it's not somebody you're very familiar with, and you're like, oh, well, they didn't make board, and you're like, what? And because they're just so knowledgeable and great at their job, and so like I feel like because I kind of hopscotch around submarines all over the Pacific Fleet, and I'm just like, I see these sailors that I like, even if they're like not supply specific, it's like sailors that I've worked with before. And even on my last boat, I had one guy there that, I mean, he's the guy that FSA'd for me, and he was still a first class and I'm a senior chief. And I'm just like, what happened? Like, and there's a story there, but it's just like a lot of the times I've noticed that these first classes just aren't making board. And I'm like, oh my God. And there's so many, even a guy, I ended up making chief with this torpedoman that he was clearly like ridiculous at his job. And he was like filling the chief's role, like stand and dive, like doing amazing things. He was in projects, like just great guy. And like year after year, he wasn't making board. And he was the type of dude that like his record was immaculate. Like if he would make board, it was like a slam dunk if there was quotas that he was going to make chief.
Right.
And so he finally made board the year that I made it. And he was the most senior TM1 that made chief that year, like on the list. And it was just like, I watched that happen and I'm just like, good God, man. And it's like, I know some of it. I've known people throughout my career that like just get like really like get a lot of anxiety when like they like panic when they take tests. But then I know there's others that I feel like there's certain rates that have, like you were mentioning with the exams that you were taking for that inspection, where they're taking exams and it's got like just ridiculous questions that aren't applicable on submarines. And but then it's like, I feel like a lot of the times it's people aren't taking like the process seriously enough. Like they think that by virtue of doing their job, they're going to pass a chief's exam instead of studying and like understanding the way Navy advancement works and understanding the way that the exams are written and the type of stuff that it's going to appear, and use your bibliography to study and blah, 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 blah. like as simple as that seems to be to you and I, it's like, I feel like when I have conversations with them, it's like, they're just not like engaged in that area. You know what I mean? Where they're not taking the time to understand how the Navy advancement system works, and that they do in fact need to study the things on the bibliography and understand that like the questions are pulled from there, not necessarily from your daily activities within whatever rate we're talking about. And so it's just like, you might get those questions, but if you're studying, and like one of the best things I've ever seen, I wish it was around when I was studying, is that, the Blue Jacketeer, like I interviewed those guys a long time ago, and I have been in like sporadic contact with the owners, but, the structure of that app that they have is like they update the questions from the bibliographies as they're released. And when you do it, it's just like this app that asks you questions, and as it'll repeat questions, but as you answer them correctly over and over again, it takes those questions out and starts to like tailor the questions it's asking you to your weak areas. You know what I mean? So it's like, it's just an algorithm that like, okay, so you're answering all these questions in this one area, right? It starts to take those questions out and only asks you questions in the areas that you're not answering them correctly over time. And it's just a quick thing where like you could be, I mean, obviously on submarines, it's probably not going to happen, but like on surface ships, you could be standing in the chow line, like studying, or like instead of, or like sitting at dental waiting for them to call you in and be studying, or sitting in a truck or car or whatever in the conduct of your duties, waiting for something to happen and studying, as long as you can have your phone wherever you're at. And it's like, it's amazing because I feel like it reaches sailors where they are. And like, yeah, I'm not sponsored, by the way. I'm not sponsored by anybody. But I just love those guys. Like, I love their product, and I've heard, I suggest it to a lot of people, and I see a lot of crazy reviews for like just sailors saying like, this made my score go up like 20 points. But like, yeah, I don't know. Weirdly, I don't know. I've just been thinking about it kind of like philosophically, or like, I don't know, like just in general, I've been like trying to figure out why that's a problem. Like why these first classes that are doing such a great job at their primary duty, and then you'll see a lot of them get really frustrated by the fact that they're not making board 2, but it's like, well, what are you doing about it? Like, and maybe they don't have the leadership that is like providing that type of like those types of answers and guidance and like tools and even just time to study. I don't really know. The making board part is hard because there's only so much that outside help can give you, I guess. Like that's the part where there's a lot more, I think, on you individually, of like, you need to study more, or you need to just do your actual job more, at least enough to pass the test, right? You don't have to get a 90 on it. You just have to pass, which is like, I don't know, not to sound like insulting, but like, it's a fairly not low, I guess. I don't know. It's not a low bar, but like, I just noticed like for my test, like it took me 3 times. Well, it was my 3rd time that I made board, and I didn't make it till my 4th time. But like when I went out of rate, my score tanked. Right. Cause I just didn't do any, I just wasn't staying up on any of it. Right. Yeah. And I'm not much like the way I learn, like I can't just read about it. Like I know I'm an alien, dude. I can sit down with a reference and just like take notes and highlight and retain it. And I get that most people aren't like that. So I try not to like suggest that, because I know it's, I mean, like, I can do weird. It, but it just doesn't stick the same. Yeah. In a test when you're just blasted with like serial information, just, over and over and over. So like when I have to do it, and then it really cements itself. Right. Yeah. So it took me a little while to where I was like back sort of doing my rate, where I was kind of like, okay, some of this is coming back to me. And then that's when I finally passed it and made board. And then I didn't make it that year, and who knows why. And then the next year I did, and whatever, it was fine. Yeah. But
I get that piece of it, but it's like, it's hard for me and most people, I would assume at least, to be able to train that into somebody. Cause like some weekly divisional training is not going to get that to you.
Right.
You know, maybe reading it helps, maybe it doesn't, but if just reading it doesn't help you and that's not how you learn, there's not a whole lot I could do. Like we were talking about earlier, like most people can't afford, I can't just send you underway to go learn your job. Like I need you to do your job here, not do your job with somebody else. And it, you know, the onesie twosie, there's ways you can work around that, but I think what gets me more is, as we were talking about, it came up the other day in my office, somebody came in and we were kind of joking. We're like, he was giving us a hard time about like, well, nobody listens to us with this, you know, so like, will you go tell them these things? And I was like, well, no, you will come with me. I'll stand next to you because like you legitimately know more about this than me and you can answer the questions. So either, and it's not like you're the one that that deserves and the credit for having all these answers. And in like a slightly self-serving way, I look like less of an idiot when I can't answer them and you can.
Right.
But I mean, it's not that I try to not look like an idiot, but it's like, you're the one who is expected to know this.
Yeah. I
get that I'm supposed to know it also, but it's like not totally my area of expertise, I guess. I don't know how to really describe it, but like I'm not a button pusher to the same extent anymore. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So if somebody wants like a button pusher answer, like you're probably the guy to ask, not me. But for whatever reason that is true, where like it somehow comes, it means something different if I say it, vice if you say it.
Yeah.
So how about you say the same thing you would say to me, but I'll just stand there and which just somehow lends credence to whatever you're saying. But anyways, something like that came up and I was joking. I was like, well, you know, when results come out and you make chief this year, it won't be an issue anymore.
Yeah.
And he's always like, he just rolls his eyes at all that stuff. And it's the same thing. And then during like midterms, because those just happened, right? Like earlier this month. E6 midterms. Yeah. And we had told him, like, a couple of the guys, we had told them like, hey, I really, like, legitimately, I hope to see your name on the list. Like, I hope you made it. You know, I know you made board, but like, I really hope there, whatever. And it's usually like, oh yeah, I'm sure you're just like, can't wait or whatever. And like, and I think that's like, it kind of surprised me because some of them were like, oh, you just can't wait to mess with me during the season.
Right.
And one of the guys I kind of laughed at and I was like, oh yeah, no, that's 100% what I'm waiting for. Like just joking with them about it.
Yeah.
But like, and to some extent, sometimes there's a little bit of truth to that of like, but not like mess with somebody, but like you hope to drive I'm hoping that they're going to get the lessons that we've been trying to teach them. But maybe if it comes from everybody else and not just me, it'll sink in that that's like a real thing that we're trying to teach them.
Yeah.
But a lot of it is like, I was more like surprised. Like one of the guys I finally stopped was like, do you think that we legitimately don't want you to make it?
Yeah.
Like, why? And he was like, oh, I don't know. Like more or less his thought was like, why would it not like, why do you care or whatever, but like, how does it, it's like, I don't know. Like I still like seeing other people do well. That's a thing. But then I realized like a lot of that has to do with the way the Navy kind of brings you up, right? Because until you make chief, even afterwards, but like until then, you were very much like, I need to be the best that I can be. And I need to beat everybody else around me for ranking, for whatever. But then once, you know, one of the big things that we teach throughout season and is like, it's not about you anymore. It's about your guys and you want your guys to do really well.
Yeah.
But we were trying to explain to a couple of the LPOs of like, you need to be in that mindset now. Like you're already the LPO for a reason.
Yeah.
You're already good for a reason. You need to make everybody else in your office good, not just you. And like trying to explain that to him. And it's like, I hope to see you there and you will learn this if you do make it. But I'm just trying to help you out now. Like, consider this, you know, answer to the test or whatever, but like, however you want to look at it, but like it's not you anymore. I know that you're still first class, and in your head, that's still what it is. And that's a hard thing to get out of your head for a lot of people when they make chief, but like you need to make other people do better. And like, it's legitimately cool to see. Like, I love seeing like when results come out, it's super exciting.
Yeah.
And the amount of chiefs that I see that like are diving after, like when you hear like, oh, CMC's got the results, like the amount of people that are speed calling everybody, like asking for your buddies or whatever, asking about these guys. Like, it's not because you're like, oh man, I can't wait to watch that dude do push-ups forever. It's like, no, like this is awesome. Like, it's exciting. I don't know.
Yeah.
I was surprised that he thought that it was weird that like when he was just looking at like, why would you care? But almost, you know what I mean? Like, what? Like, sure. Okay. Whatever. Like, we made chief, or, you know, maybe we do whatever, but like, why would you really like legitimately be invested in seeing my name there? And it's like, I don't know. It's exciting.
And I think that
like we legitimately want to see our people do well. It's not like, but not even as like a flex on somebody else in the office or whatever. It's like that has nothing to do with it.
I think that
there's plenty of people I want to see make it not in my rate.
Yeah. The sailors that have that like mentality, I feel like are the ones that had some kind of an experience with chiefs that got them like to that place where they think that it's not about them. Like it's about that chief's eval, or that chief just wants to mess with them or whatever. And so like kind of almost like those cooks on that boat in dealing with that senior enlisted leader, it's like they have this idea in their mind that a person wearing a cookie to work is like out to get them now. You know what I mean? And it's so like they now have to have a positive experience to like counterbalance that in some way. And so like, cause even their experience with chiefs wasn't good. Cause they're all they're really junior, and the one that isn't there anymore, it wasn't a positive experience. So like when I came down to do the inspection, it like, you could see it took a minute to break the ice, and like only one of the three juniors fully let go of that, like apprehension around me. Like the one, and it was the guy that I got to spend the most time with because he was just on days, and the two other juniors were on nights. So I saw them less. Like I saw them, but I saw them significantly less time during our time on board. So it was just like, you could tell. I went out of my way to, and I didn't have to do this. Like I sat down with one of the two juniors at night because she was at a place where she was ready to like do significant things on a qualification card. And so like, I said, hey, go get your qual card, and we'll sit down and do that, because it required like an ISIC level or above person and doing my job to sign. And so I was like, go get that qual card and we'll go through a bunch of it. And she was like, oh, you could see like the apprehension, and she was like, okay. And then like went and got it and came out and sat down with me and we sat there for probably an hour. And it was more like, because I knew she had never been given the training that she needed, it was more like I just sat there and provided it. Like she just sat there and listened and like would ask some questions here and there, but most of it was just me providing training and like asking her, like, does that make sense? Have you done that before? Have you done this before? Like, and we would talk through a lot of the stuff. And so like we got a bunch of stuff, like a bunch of the knowledge stuff on that qual card done. And at the end, you could see her just like waiting for the catch. You know what I mean? Like waiting for like, why are you doing this? And then at the end, I was just like, all right, you got any questions about anything? You know, like whatever. And she's like, no, I think I just need, it was just one of those things where like, because they were manned the way that they were, like they were trying to transition her to this position where she'd be like finish that qual and do that thing. And, because they didn't have enough people right then, it was like she knew she wouldn't be able to get the time on the computer doing the thing, like just to get the repetitions to really get good at it until they had more people there. And so like that's basically what she said. She's like, I know I need to get more time on the computer, and like, because I told her I'm like, bully your way into there with CS1 so that you can sit down with them and like get some of those reps and have him guide you through some of this stuff so that you understand it. And she's like, yeah, no, I know I need to do that. It's just with the lack of people, it's really hard to find that time. And I'm like, no, I totally get that. But like as those, cause they have new people that are supposed to be coming out. I'm like, when that happens and cause then you're going to have to train them to make them useful to free up your time to then go do that. And that's kind of what we discussed. But then when she was done, she just looked at me like, okay, I guess there's no catch. And she was just like, thank you. Like, I really appreciate that. And then walked away and that was it. And so it's just like, it was weird because like, and unfortunate because you have to like, after they had that initial negative experience, you then have to counterbalance that with a really positive one. And it's a lot harder to get them to buy it. You know what I mean? Because there's that, oh, I've seen this before, you know, like where's the catch? And it's just like, like, so then to get those first classes to like genuinely believe that you just care about their development and that like you're just excited to see them promote. It's like they have seen so many interactions that have gotten them to the point where they believe that you don't feel that way and that it's just like you just want to like haze them when the shenanigans start or whatever. It's like they've had enough experiences that have reinforced that mentality that it's like when a dude like you or I come along and start like, no, really, I just care about you. And I just want to like see you develop and do whatever is positive for you, because like the selfish motivation that those other people had to do whatever they were doing, like mine is to see you do well, because I do get something out of that. I don't want it to like think that it's all just like, cause I'm some leadership saint or something. Like I'm not. I really do this from a place of like, I genuinely care about you, but I also get a lot out of investing in you and seeing you develop and whatever. Like it benefits me too. Like it's the way that I get satisfaction out of my job. And so like, but to convince them of that is a lot more difficult. You know what I mean? Like it's almost like you got to like over a period of time overcompensate a little bit to try to get them to trust you. I've noticed that through the podcast too, man. Like to try to sell juniors on the fact that this senior chief that's talking into a microphone and bringing his friends on and stuff, like there's no ulterior motive there. Like it took a minute to get a lot of the people to like trust that. And some people still don't. Like,
well, there's also like how many, there's a lot of people that you want to make it because you see the way they operate basically. And you're like, you should be a chief,
right?
And you
for sure
act like one. You have great ideas. You're probably better that you'll like day one will probably be better off than like a handful of people that are already in the mess, like, or at least as good as, you know what I mean? Like I want you to get paid and the recognition that you deserve. And I also want you like on my team when you're in the mess, because I think you will go do these good things and you are like the person that will help make certain things happen. And like, that's what I want. So like, I really want you to make it because I want you here. I want you to like, I want your voice at that next meeting for these things to help say or do or whatever. And like, and I don't know, it's just one of those like, yeah, you're just saying that. It's like, no, like, you know how much easier everybody's life would be if we didn't have to deal with a chief season. Like it's not something that like you just deal with, you know what I mean? But like, there's a lot of extra work that goes into this for a reason. But like we do it because like we want those people to succeed. And I don't know. Yeah. It's just weird when people are like, oh man, I was so happy to see your name on the list. And it's like, why though? Yeah. You know, like when that happened to me, like it doesn't make any sense. Like how does this remotely affect, like you retired 3 years ago. Why do you care? Well, yeah. But
I think some of it, it's impossible for you to understand some of it until you've been a chief for a while. And then you kind of get it. It's just like, that's just the nature of the beast. Like it's just the nature of that leadership development that happens and the maturating and whatever. And you just understand the way the Chiefs mess works. So like what you just described, where it's like, we're stronger because of it. And so now I'm psyched that you're on my team. It's like an NFL draft, you know, like I'm psyched that you're on my team. Like I'm pumped that I can now put you in positions I couldn't necessarily put you in before. And you just get to be a part of this process, and you get to, and like you said, you get the pay and benefits and all the things that come along with doing that. And like, you're just pumped. And like, also the seeing good people that you care about, because like the concept that I could be in the position that I'm in as a leading chief of a division and not care about those people that I'm spending all that time with. Like, to me, that's like wild as a concept, because even chiefs that like junior sailors, like to this day will say, like, if you brought the guy up or whoever, they'd be like, oh, he was a terrible chief. Even those people, in my experience behind the closed door of the mess and having conversations with them and stuff like that, it's like they genuinely cared about their sailors. They just weren't doing their job in a way that like best conveyed that, for a bunch of reasons. And it's just like, some of it's like, it's like lack of maturity and they didn't understand how to communicate. Some of it's this weird complex that junior chiefs or just like undeveloped leaders get when they're doing it, where they feel like they've got to like fake it, like they got to conform to this like chief, like idea that they have, like this, they have this idea of what a chief's supposed to be, and they start trying to conform to it. And by virtue of doing that, it's like they turn into this like warped version of themselves, because they're not just naturally being the leader that they would be otherwise. And it's like getting filtered through this weird chief thing that it's not natural for them. And so like, there's all these reasons that it can and does happen, but it's like, when you talk to the person, like, because when you close the door of the mess, they get to kind of like shed that and like relax. And when you're talking to them, even if it's just a normal conversation, or it's something like, I've had a bunch of chiefs like that their juniors would say that about them, that they didn't give a crap about me and they were terrible leaders. Those chiefs being visibly frustrated and like asking like, what am I doing wrong? How can I do this better? I just want to take care of my sailors. And it's like, sometimes it's really difficult to get them to like fix that. And it takes a long period of time. And sometimes it never gets fixed because they don't want to hear it. Like, but there's just like this weirdness when you're having those conversations, because it's like you try to fix them and you try to develop them and you try to do all those things. But it's like, even those ones that are universally considered terrible chiefs or terrible leaders genuinely care about their sailors, like really, really do. And I mean, there's occasionally some sociopath out there that just wants to like watch the world burn, but it's really rare. And so like the 99% of the time, those chiefs that you think are so terrible, they really do care about you. But there's definitely stories. I mean, there's definitely stories out there about like crazy, like sociopathic, like I just want to hurt you and watch the world burn types. Like they exist. But I feel like they're pretty rare.
Yeah, I don't think that it's as common as people think.
Yeah, I don't either. Because I think even some of the ones that pass as that, it's like there's a lot of other reasons why you think they're that way. Like just defeated, burnt out, bitter, jaded people for so many reasons. Their personal life's probably exploding and they're angry. And so they're taking it out on people that don't deserve it. Like there's a bunch of reasons but like, they're not evil, like, and they really do care about you. They're just not, they probably shouldn't even be in a leadership position at that point if their whole life's on fire. But holy crap, man. 2 hours. Yeah, it's late. 2 hours and 20 minutes. That was fun though. Yeah, man. What else is going on in the fucking world over there? Like, I know you got to go, but it's early for me.
What was I going to tell you? Oh, so here's a wild.
All right. I hope you guys enjoyed that. Always fun talking to Chief Bob. We kind of catch up and download everything about once a month. And sometimes it's appropriate to record. Sometimes it's not. And then I'm going to try to start doing some of these with other people, just not as the Chiefs, but just kind of catching up and going over a bunch of issues because I think it's fun and to talk about like people's life experiences and this type of stuff they're dealing with in leadership scenarios on a daily basis. But also, as I am transitioning to retirement, I'm not going to have as many of these experiences, so I'll only be drawing on my historical experiences. So it'll be more fun, I think, and more productive for the listener to hear me talk to people that are in the mix doing it every day. So that's the kind of thing that I'm going to just start to try to spin up as well. And then I got something fun. I keep mentioning it because I'm excited, but I'm not even close to being done. I'm getting closer to being able to launch this thing. So I'm pretty pumped about that. As soon as I get to a place where I can start sharing stuff on social media, I will let all of you know via social media, and I'm sure I'll start mentioning on the podcast. But I think people will be pumped about it. I am. I mean, I'm excited, and I've shared it with a few friends, and they're like, "Oh my God, that's cool." So yeah, I'm pretty pumped for that. So announcement inbound, and then yeah, like always, if you need anything from us, hit us up. don'tgiveupptheshitpodcast@gmail.com. You can Facebook message us, Don't Give Up the Shit Podcast, or you can hit me up on Instagram or Reddit at DGUTS Podcast. Let us know if you need anything. You got any questions, comments, concerns, critiques, whatever. Always here if you need us. And then if you would, I haven't mentioned it in a while, but if you would like, share, subscribe, review on all the platforms for all the things, not just for podcasts, but just on social media. It helps us get the word out, and all the stupid social media algorithms will like us better if people are mentioning us and liking us and subscribing and commenting and doing liking and doing all that stuff. So the more interactions our stuff gets, the more it'll kind of get out there to the people that need it. And that's it. Please hit the like button, drop a comment down below on what you thought, and subscribe to the channel. That's what I got for you today. Thank you so much for listening, and don't give up the ship.